Listeners, do you have a business or are you trying to launch a book or do you just want to connect more deeply with other people? Have you tried all the methods and formulas successful people have given you only to come up feeling short or worse, feeling miserable and like the effort was not worth it? I am going to raise my hand because I have done the same thing. I have taken all the courses. I have spent money. I have read articles, and sometimes the wisdom that I get helps. But there have been plenty of times where following someone else's best advice has left me feeling frustrated and like I have to be someone I'm not. And it just hasn't worked for me. I find that I just become someone else. And you know what's even worse? Sometimes the things that I have been asked to do are against what works for my nervous system. And when that happens, I feel stressed, anxious, and sometimes so vulnerable. All I want to do is hide in a hole so that I can feel safe again. Listeners, have you ever felt that way? That is a common thing that can happen when we are pushing ourselves beyond what our nervous system is capable of tolerating. And sometimes we have to back away. But what can happen when we do back away is that we can experience shame that we're not making progress or that we're just not good enough or tough enough, or we just don't have the skills to be able to do what someone else has done. Are you familiar with that hamster wheel? Well, if that is the case, this week, I hope to get you off it because I'm going to talk about what you really need to know about reaching other people and regulating yourself as you do so. I'm not going to do this as yet one more guru who has the magic answers that are going to allow you to create some sort of massive following, but rather I want to serve as a guide and a partner who can help you tap into your inner guru, that inner sense of knowing that actually understands what works for you. And so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Writing Resilience, the podcast for writers who want to write and live the story that sets them free. I'm your host, Lisa Cooper Ellison, a writer, transformational and trauma-informed coach, story alchemist, and fellow traveler on the winding road of healing and creativity. Each week, I'll share tools, practices, and conversations that will help you let go of what no longer serves you as you create stories that change lives, especially your own. Together, we'll explore how to trust your creative voice, support your mental health and resilience, work with your nervous system and unique design, and stay connected to your deepest calling as a writer, even when life gets messy. It's time, my friends, to write and live the story that sets you free. I'm honored to walk that journey alongside you, one story and one episode at a time. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Cooper Ellison, your resident story alchemist and host of this show. Every week, we explore the ways you can write and live the story that sets you free. And I am so excited about today's episode because we're going to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart and one that I find is really important to talk about when it comes to people who have experienced trauma and really anyone who has felt like putting themselves out there feels dangerous or scary or creates anxiety. And that issue is your platform. So, what do I mean by platform? Every single person has a platform or a way that they can connect with other people. And if you're a writer, you've probably heard the term author platform. And it sounds really official, like, oh my gosh, I have to have this thing called an author platform. Well, really, an author platform is just how you reach your readers. And one of the reasons why author platform can feel so prodigious, to use a big word, or like heavy, right, is that it can feel scary to put yourself out there. And that's because we often think about it as like, oh, look at me, buy my book, buy my course, buy this thing that I want you to do. And when we think about platform in that way, it really is inauthentic. It's not going to serve other people. One, because it's not really giving them what they need, but it's also not giving you what you need, right? That inauthenticity is going to show up in the way that you speak, the way that you carry yourself, and even the messages that you share. But we don't have to think about platform that way. We can think about our platform as a gift that we are offering to the world. I think about it the way Marie Forleo talks about it in her book, Everything is Figure Outable. One of the things she says is no one else has your exact talents, gifts, and perspective. And if you don't express it and work every day to share your unique gifts, the world has lost something truly irreplaceable. Otherwise, you are stealing from those people who need your work most. And so that idea of not stealing from the world has really stuck with me. And it's something that I say to myself when I get afraid or I work on my platform in a way that feels uncomfortable, which I'll be honest is often because I've had to learn how to do this in a way that feels regulating to my nervous system. And I'm going to share a story in a little bit about a time when I didn't do it well. So hang on for that. But for now, let's dive a little deeper into what an author platform is and some of the myths around it. So, your author platform really is just the ways that you reach other people. And in the case of an author platform, it's how you reach your readers. And there are some myths that people hold on to that create tremendous pressure on themselves around what they're supposed to do. And so here are some of those myths. I have to be in specific places, like on social media when I don't want to be on social media. Or to be successful, I have to become an influencer and I have to learn how to do specific dances or performances for other people. And while I'm doing this, I have to amass a lot of followers. And also that there's some sort of magic formula that you can use to get there and other people know it. So if I just get the magic formula, I'm going to do the two things that we're supposed to do. I'm going to amass all of those followers and I'm going to publish something either as a post or as an essay or somewhere that is going to go viral. And then I am going to be famous. Listeners, have you heard that? Have you thought that? Have those ideas rolled around your mind and caused you to be completely stressed out? I have. I can definitely admit that. And so today, let's unpack that and create some more ease around this process and around the way you see your author platform. And if you're not a writer, the way that you reach other people in an authentic way that is true to you. So if you are trying to build an author platform or any kind of platform where you want to reach a larger number of people, you have to have places where you are hanging out. And it is helpful to have an online presence, and that could just be a website or perhaps one place that you exist online, maybe one social media platform that you're on. That way, people can connect with you in the ways that most people are connecting with the world, right? Most people aren't going to the phone book to find people, or they aren't going to the library, they're going online. So having some sort of presence there is helpful, but that is not necessarily what you need to do, especially if being online causes you stress and it does not feel joyous. There are plenty of other ways that you can build an author platform. In fact, I have worked with many clients who have robust platforms that are not online. And I've said, don't even worry about being online unless you want to. So if you're a person who is connected to a large organization, or you do a lot of speaking events, or you are participating in listservs, especially professional listservs that relate to your book, those are all parts of your author platform. So I want you to think more deeply about what that could be for you. And then this is the other thing that I want you to think about. What do you actually love to do? I don't want you to think right now about social media or places you can be. I just want you to think about the skills that you have, the activities that you like to do. So, for instance, do you like to talk? Do you like to speak to other people? Do you like to draw? Do you like to write? Do you like to do something else entirely? And also, what is the weird thing that you like to do? That thing that's just you, that when people hear about it, they are surprised and intrigued, and it makes them want to know more. I want you to take a moment to think about those things. And if you have a notebook nearby, write a few of those down, because those things are the things that can help you figure out where you want to be so that you can build the kind of author platform that really works for you. And when you're doing that, right, and you're thinking about where you want to go and the things you want to do, one of the most important things I want you to think about is, what does success look like for you? Right? What are your goals? Because you do not have to have a large following and you do not have to become an influencer in order to have a meaningful platform and meaningful ways of reaching other people. And notice what I keep saying, meaningful ways of reaching other people. And that is because there are lots of ways that you can have large followings that are meaningless. Let's say you have 10,000 followers on, I don't know, Instagram, but very few of them like your work or they don't comment, and it's just a number, right? That's not meaningful. Meaningful engagement means that people are actually connecting with you. And so think about where those places are and what is enough, right? I'm going to say that right now. What is enough? Because I think when it comes to author platform, we're always thinking about the more. How can I get more followers? How can I reach more people? And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you are guided to do, but also consider, what would you be happy with? What would be enough so that you can build a goal that is true to who you are and true to what you want versus what the world tells you that you are supposed to do. And here's just a simple example of some author platform goals that clients of mine have shared. Some people just want to practice using their voice. They want to be online to help themselves make sense of their stories. So maybe they're on Substack and they're writing essays about that. Or maybe they're creating reels because they want to learn how to share something about their book in a more succinct way. Or maybe they're thinking about starting a podcast like I did. And they want to have a way of using their voice to have a certain kind of conversation. And in fact, I started this podcast because I don't really like social media that much. I'll be honest with you, I'm on social media a little, but my brain actually feels better when I'm not on social media. And I personally like to engage in long form work more than I do short little reels. Those little reels are these dopamine hits that will take me down a rabbit hole that will waste all of my time. But if I can listen to a podcast that inspires me, makes me think about things in a broader way, or helps me have a better mindset, that's useful to me and that's important. So that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast. The other thing is that I really like to know stuff and I like to know people and I like to lift them up. And this allowed me to do all of those things. So think about what is important to you and what enough is. Because as I said earlier, I talked about engagement. And one of the most important forms of success for you to think about is engagement. And here are some metrics I want to share with you. Having 10 really engaged followers who comment on your work and share your work with other people and sing your praises is far better than having 100 people, that number that shows up as a metric where no one is connecting with you. So, when you're thinking about engagement, every time someone comments on your work, thank them and then pause to have a little bit of gratitude. Wow, that person was touched by something I did or something I said. That's amazing. And how wonderful that we get to connect in this way. Because my deepest hope is that if something I share connects with you, that you go off and do something inspiring that connects with someone else, right? So that's one of the ways that we can think about our success. We can think about it as the drop in the water that ripples out and supports other people. Some other things you might want to think about when it comes to building your author platform is, who do you want to be? Are you trying to be an influencer? And Tia Levings talked about what an influencer is, and I loved her definition. Influencers are people who sell products for other people. Think about influencers in the beauty space, right? What are they influencing? They're influencing you to buy, I don't know, makeup or something like that. That's what an influencer is. A thought leader, on the other hand, is someone who has something important to say about a specific topic. And what they're trying to do is share their experience, strength, wisdom, and hope so that you can benefit from it in some way, right? That's what thought leadership does, is it disseminates important information so that you grow wiser, you understand more about whatever that topic is, and then you can take action in whatever way is important to you. So think about that. Do you want to be a thought leader? And if so, who do you want to reach? And what is it you want to say to them? And then how can you be in those places, whether those places are online or somewhere else? And I'm going to tell you, in the world that we are in, think about local community and do not discount it. We often try to think globally. We're thinking about all of the ways we can reach everyone in the world. But some of the most meaningful aspects of your platform are going to be the people that you get together with regularly in person. And I'm going to tell you what one of the most meaningful pieces of my week is, and that is the times when I can connect with my human design group and when I connect with my Buddhist Sangha. These are small groups, they're not huge, but the conversations we have are deep. We laugh together, and because we are in person, we feel each other's joy, and we can connect with and support each other in ways that are difficult to do online. And I'm not saying that I don't have people who don't support me online or that I don't support, because that would certainly be a lie. That's not true. And I'm grateful for all of the people that I know online and all of the ways that I can lift them up and connect with them. But there is something important about in person connection that we want to nurture. And so think about, what are those ways that you can be with people that give you that sense of meaning and that sense of belonging that is important. All right. So we've talked a little bit about platforms themselves and what you can do or what you could do and what maybe you want to do. But I want to unpack those last two items that I shared, which is this idea that there is a magic formula that you can use to become successful, and that success is going to be having something go viral. I know people who have spent hundreds and even thousands of dollars trying to learn the magic formula that someone else has used to be successful. And this is not to diss anyone who has been successful in some way, or they haven't figured out what that secret formula or the magic formula is for them. They have figured out what that formula is for them. But here's the thing that we want to keep in mind. Those results may not be replicatable. And that's because there are other factors at play in terms of how quickly that person works, the topic that they're talking about, the connections that they have, just the timing of the things that they do that are not the same for you. And this is not to say that you can't be successful or that sometimes formulas don't work for some people. They do. That's why they're there. And that's why they have so much traction, right? If they didn't work for some people some of the time, they would fritter away and we wouldn't see them anymore. But I want you to just keep in mind that just because something has worked for one person does not mean that it will work for you. And that could be because it's not designed for you. And I'll just be honest, I have spent that money too. I have learned many different formulas and I've tried to learn them for me, but also for my clients because I work with people on author platforms and I know a lot and I can guide people as to things that might work for them. But there are a lot of times when I find, oh my gosh, I'm trying to do this for myself and it's not working because it's taking time that I don't have. It's requiring me to be someone that I'm not. And there's just a no inside my body. And I've tried to override it in order to please the formula. Listeners, have you ever tried to please a formula or please an idea that someone else had as to how you were supposed to work? If you have, please drop a YouTube comment because I want to hear from you and I want to know about that story because we are kindred spirits. So easy to do that. And what I want you to take away from this is that You can be successful. I am holding space for your full and total success. But I really want you to know what success is for you and to understand that we are not all successful in the same ways. And there are a variety of different reasons why. And one of the ways that I have come to understand this is through human design. So, if you're not familiar with human design is a system that helps you map your energy and how you can work with ease and flow. And I am going to be teaching a session on May 27th called Build an Author Platform that aligns with your design and nervous system, which I'm super excited about. And if you want to join me for that, you will learn more about what your human design is and how these things work for you. But I want to talk about how it works for me right now using two parts of human design that I think are really important to building an author platform, and that is your strategy and your profile. Okay, so your strategy is the way that you work in the world with ease. It is the way that actually works for you. And for some people, it is counterintuitive. So I am an Aries. Aries people have fire. We like to go, we like to start, right? That's something that's really important for us. But my strategy as a person who is a generator, and generators are people who have consistent energy, is to wait and respond. First time I heard that, I was so frustrated. I'm like, are you kidding me? Wait and respond? I hate waiting. It's the worst thing in the world. I've since learned exactly what that means and how that works, and how really what I'm meant to do is pay attention to what's happening in the world, notice what's lighting me up, notice what's bringing me joy, pause for a moment to see if this is really something I should do now or if it's really for me, and then take right action, which is very different. There are other people who have different strategies. And when you understand what your strategy is, you can understand why certain things haven't worked for you or what actually gets in your way. And sometimes what gets in your way is thinking you're supposed to do things the way everyone else does. The second part of that is your profile. And your profile is the mask that you wear in the world. It's kind of the way that you operate. And I've said already that I'm a generator, but I am a 1-3 generator, which means that, again, I have that consistent energy and desire, and I have a desire to do two things. One is to learn things deeply. I love having all of the information. And that's my one line. The one is the researcher investigator. I like to have all the information, and I like to do things that allow me to gather more information. The 3 line is about experimentation. It's called the martyr, which I actually hate. That's the original term in human design. But in quantum human design, they call it the experimenter. I like that word a lot better. So it's a word that I tend to use. But the 3 is about trying things, seeing what works, sometimes breaking things, sometimes having a trial and an error and falling on the side of error, but always having a lesson so that you build mastery through those experiments, right? So you build mastery through experiments. It is not always easy to be a 1-3 because those two things compete. But when I have paused to embrace that, it's helped me understand why certain things work in my author platform and why I like to do them. Teaching allows me to learn things deeply. And as I teach, I get to experiment with different lessons. And I like to do it in ways that are disruptive or that force people to see things in new ways and to think outside the box, right? That's that 3 piece. I love to learn deeply, to help other people learn deeply, and to think outside the box. And so that's why that works for me. It's also why podcasting works, because every podcast episode is an experiment. And when I do episodes like this, I get to think about what do I actually know and what can I formulate into a podcast episode so that I can teach that to you. And when I'm interviewing other people, I am soaking up all the things they have to say like a sponge. And that feeds both sides of my design, right? That 1 and the 3. I'm experimenting and I'm learning. I'm experimenting and I'm learning. And that lights me up every single day. It makes me so happy. And that is so different from trying to create reels, which I know how to do, but I just don't like doing them. So that is one of the things we want to think about when we're building our author platforms is what lights you up and how can you learn more about who you are so that you can really embrace what truly lights you up rather than trying to do the things that the world tells you you should do. So that's what I really want you to learn how to do. And I find it really cool how accurate human design is and how much it's helped me customize things for my clients and how it's allowing me to give people permission to be who they are and to really pause and say, what's the yes for you? How do you understand things in a way that helps you claim your power? That is amazing. That's why sovereignty is my word for 2026. All right, so we've just talked about the myth that there is the magic formula that you can follow, and that if you just follow it, you are going to have success. But I want to wrap up with something that I think is really important that's related to that. And it's the reason why we love formulas. It's that we want something that's going to be easy, that's going to allow us to go viral, right? Go big quick. That is the American way. We want to go big quick. That does work for some people, but sometimes you may think that someone has gone big quick, and that is not necessarily the case. So I'm going to give you two concrete examples. Laura Cathcart Robbins is a friend of mine, and she wrote Stash, My Life in Hiding, and I interviewed her. So I will link our interview in the show notes. And she had a viral essay that she wrote about going to the Brave Magic conference and her experience of that as a Black woman. And it went viral. It went so viral that it led to the Only One in the Room podcast, which is a podcast that she runs that has won so many awards. It's gone huge, right? She got the viral experience, but she'd been writing for a while. It wasn't like she just decided to pick up her pen and suddenly she went viral. No, she had been working on things and understanding what her perspective and what her story was for a long time. The same thing happened for Tia Levings. Tia Levings was posting for years until in 2021, she started posting about the Duggar trial and it caught traction and people started following her like gangbusters and her platform blew up. So it looked like she had this overnight success, but really she had been blogging and posting for years before that happened. So I say all that just to say that there can be the illusion of overnight success that we can buy into that isn't true. So are there occasionally people who do have overnight success? Yes, but more often than not, people have been working at things for a while, and it's just that what they have to say just aligns so well with the timing and what's happening in the world that it leads to the success that they have. But here's the other issue that can take place when it comes to trying to go viral. It's not just that buying into that quick satisfaction, it's that we're not actually wired for that. Our nervous systems are not wired to suddenly go from having 10, 20, 30 connections to millions of connections overnight. And in fact, it can cause people to freeze and to actually quit what they're doing. And so I'm going to give you a little story about that. That feels pretty vulnerable, but it's been a teachable moment for me that I have shared with people for years. So, listeners, I'm offering it to you. Back in 2015, I felt called to write this essay about my brother's suicide. I had this internal yes, like, you need to write this essay. And I had been to some writing conferences and I pitched the Washington Post and they said no. And so I immediately sent it to the Guardian and they said yes. And this essay did really well. And it was my first really big publication. And I can't say that it went viral in some of the ways that things go viral now, but it went viral enough that a professor of mine that I had had at JMU contacted me because she was in London and reading this. And she's like, Lisa, is this you? And I know thousands and thousands of people read it. And at that time, I had not yet prepared my nervous system for that. And so every time people were reading, I felt absolutely naked and like I was being stared at in all my vulnerability. And it was painful. The day that this article came out was supposed to be this huge victory. I pitched and my piece was picked up. Oh my God, people are calling me from London. And all I wanted to do was run and hide. And I had a couple of other things that came from that. I was on NPR and I was supposed to be capitalizing that and writing more essays of this vein and talking about things more and pushing, pushing, pushing. But you know what happened to my nervous system? It locked up. I had the worst case of writer's block. And I just had this internal feeling like, I don't want to publish anymore. And so I didn't. I didn't publish anything for, I think, almost 2 years because my energy just shrunk up. It just wasn't ready for that. And that, again, was this huge teachable moment for me because it helped me understand why this is so important. And so I really ascribe to something that Amelia Ruby, she was on the podcast as well. And she talked about the fact that steady growth is important. And this is steady growth that allows your platform to grow alongside your nervous system's capacity to accept that level of visibility. And so, what we want to do is have steady growth because steady growth is sustainable. It is sustainable for how we are wired and allows you to grow into something that's bigger and bigger versus trying to have something explode overnight. And I love that. And it is something that I ascribe to. And it is something that I have worked towards. And I feel really good about that. So when I think about success for me means working at a rate that allows my nervous system to grow alongside my capacity to reach other people. And that's not sexy, my friends. That's not sexy. It's also not maybe satisfying in the ego sense of things where we want it to go big fast. But you know what? It has been the best thing for me. And I am so glad that I have allowed myself to do that because I wouldn't have this podcast today. I wouldn't have some of the publications I have today if I hadn't taken the time to really allow for that to happen, right? So it was the work behind the scenes that was needed for me to have an author platform that works the way it does today. And it's not the biggest platform ever. I'm not going to say that it is, but I feel really good about what I've created. And I feel so honored by all of the people who comment on my work and who write to me about how what I do is meaningful. So, listeners, you know who you are. And I'm just thanking you right now for all you have done to make me feel like what I do in the world is meaningful because it's why I continue to show up even when it's hard. It's why I stretch myself even when it feels uncomfortable. All right, so that's enough about me. Let's get back to the topic. I want to wrap up by reiterating a few things about what we talked about today. So, first, I just want to remind you that your author platform or any platform you have is how you reach people. And the question you want to ask is what are the best ways for you to reach people? How can you be in connection with people in person whenever possible? And what does success look like for you when it comes to reaching people? It could be just to have a successful conversation where you feel connected and you feel like you belong. That is probably some of the best success you will ever have. As you're thinking about success, do not be afraid to set those terms for yourself. You get to decide what success is. Your success does not need to look like anyone else's. When you're thinking about this, always think about meaningful engagement because meaningful engagement matters more than numbers. And if you're thinking about submitting work to an agent or a publisher, I will tell you that is how they think as well. They care more about engagement because engaged readers and listeners are going to buy your book more than the people who have just liked something. So pay close attention to that. And above all else, take good care of yourself. and take good care of your nervous system. And please, please, please create a platform that feels sustainable and nourishing. You deserve it. And if you are writing a book is a marathon. If you are running a business is a marathon. And if you're doing anything else that's important to you, there is a marathon component to it. And you deserve to make sure that you have the energy to do that work. And so that's what I want you to think about and know that if you are listening today, you are part of my platform. I am so grateful that you are here and that we get to have these conversations week after week. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you'd like to sign up for a Build an Author platform that aligns with your design and nervous system, please see the show notes for this episode. But before you go, let's take this concept a little deeper. I want you to get your journal out and I want you to ask yourself this question. What does success look like for you? I want you to dig deep and I want you to figure out what your personal answer is. And once you have your answer, you can make my day by sharing it in the YouTube comments, and bonus points if you also subscribe to my YouTube channel, because likes, comments, and subscribes are how we spread the word about the show. But beyond spreading the word about the show, I really want to hear what is working for you and how this content is landing. And speaking of your thoughts on the podcast, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Carrie Fian, James Patterson, Shannon's Channel, and Brigitte Rodriguez for your recent comments on my episode on surrender, my interview with Janine Ouellette, and my editor's roundtable conversation on the law of increasing flow. It was so wonderful to hear from you, and thank you so much for your generous comments and for sharing your tips and insights. And listeners, if you haven't reached out to the show, I would love to hear from you too. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I couldn't do this podcast without your support. If you love this episode, here are 3 simple ways that you can keep this show thriving. 1, subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. 2, leave a 5-star review so others can find the show. 3, join my engaged dynamic community by signing up for the Writing and Resilience newsletter. As a thank you, you'll receive a free copy of Ditch Your Inner Critic, 5 tools to transform self-doubt into self-support. Until next time, remember that your story matters. As you write and connect with the truest, most authentic version, you become not just the writer, but the person you're meant to be. And that, my friends, is the real freedom writing can offer.